Ladies, there are moments in dating where we miss the quiet signs, not because we're not paying attention, but because we've been taught to focus on what he does, not what he asks. Today, I want to shine a light on something powerful, something most women completely overlook. When a man asks you about your future plans, it might sound like a simple, surface-level question. But the truth is, this question often carries far more weight than it appears to. It's not just about curiosity, it's about envisioning possibility. A man who is emotionally invested will want to know what your world looks like down the road, not because he's nosy, but because he's subconsciously assessing if and where he fits in. It's a small but telling signal that he's beginning to mentally include you in his long-term vision. He's not just listening to your ambitions or goals for fun. He's paying attention to the rhythm of your life, your priorities, your dreams. He wants to see whether they align with his. When he hears you talk about your career aspirations, whether you want to travel, whether you want to settle down in a specific place, or even how you picture your ideal lifestyle, he's actually collecting clues about compatibility. He may ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or do you ever want to live abroad? Or would you ever want to start your own business? These aren't idle questions. They're probes testing not only your values and vision, but how he could complement them. A man who's not emotionally invested doesn't need to know these things, but one who's hooked wants to know how to become a part of that picture without scaring you off. So, he asks in subtle, casual tones, masking real interest beneath everyday words. This question can also be a way for him to show admiration or support for your journey. When he listens closely and follows up with encouragement or thoughtful feedback, it's because he wants to emotionally invest in your growth. He wants to position himself as someone who could uplift you, not distract you. And if he's taking note of the things you say you want and then bringing them up again later, that's a huge indicator of emotional attachment. Men don't usually retain that kind of detail unless they care deeply or are beginning to. Sometimes he may test the waters with humor or hypothetical scenarios, like, so if I moved to another city, would you ever follow? Or what if we both quit our jobs and opened a beach cafe? These playful questions aren't just for laughs, they're a sneak peek into how he's imagining the two of you navigating life together. Even in their lightness, they carry the weight of emotional depth. They signal hope, interest, desire for partnership. He wants to know if you're the kind of woman who would welcome him into your vision, or if your paths are too different to merge. And more importantly, he wants to figure out if he can match the pace, energy, and direction of your life, so he doesn't get left behind. When a man starts asking about your past relationships, it's rarely just about curiosity or gossip. It's because he's trying to understand the emotional blueprint of your heart. He wants to know what shaped you, what hurt you, what stayed with you, and what you left behind. He's not asking to compare himself to your exes directly, but to see where he might succeed where others failed. This kind of question comes from a man who is starting to care, who is beginning to imagine himself as someone who could either heal those old wounds or avoid becoming one. It's a deeper inquiry masked as casual conversation, but emotionally, it's a powerful sign that he wants to connect beyond surface attraction. A man who isn't emotionally invested doesn't need to know who hurt you or what made you walk away. But a man who is starting to fall will want to know how to protect your heart. He'll ask what happened between you two, or was it a bad breakup, or do you still talk to him? These aren't interrogations. They are quiet efforts to understand the emotional landscape he's entering. He wants to tread carefully. He wants to avoid triggering the wrong things. He wants to be the exception, not the repeat. And he knows that to be that person, he has to first understand what's come before him. Sometimes the way he listens says even more than the question itself. If he leans in when you talk about betrayal or disappointment, or if he gets quiet and reflective when you share something vulnerable, he's not just being polite. He's emotionally moved. And if he responds with empathy, not judgment, it's because he wants you to feel safe sharing your story with him. He's not gathering ammunition, he's offering space, and that space is where emotional connection grows. He may also be trying to figure out how emotionally available you are. If he senses that you're still wounded, he may want to be the one who shows you that not all men are the same. If he hears that you've been guarded, he might see that as a challenge to earn your trust. He's not trying to dig into your history out of jealousy. He's looking for patterns, what you value, what you tolerate, what you never want to experience again, because in his mind, knowing this gives him a better chance of showing up the right way. There's also a more subtle layer to this. When a man asks about your past, he's also silently inviting you to ask about his. It becomes a mutual emotional exchange, a two-way mirror that opens up intimacy. He's letting you know he's not afraid of your emotional truth, and he's testing whether you're ready to hold his. He may not say all of this out loud, but the moment he asks about your exes, your heartbreaks, or your patterns, it's because something in him is already reaching for something deeper with you. When a man starts asking about who you spend your time with, especially when it comes to your close friends, co-workers, or daily circle, he's not just making casual small talk. He's paying attention to the people you choose, because they often reflect the values you live by. More importantly, when a man is emotionally invested, he becomes increasingly aware of the emotional space you occupy, and who else occupies it with you. This question is a subtle way of mapping your social and emotional world. It's his way of exploring how close he can get, and who he might be sharing emotional territory with. He may ask questions like, do you hang out with your friends a lot? Or who's that friend you always talk about? Or is your best friend more like a sister to you? These questions aren't rooted in jealousy, not always, but in curiosity that stems from emotional investment. When he starts to care, he wants to understand your environment. He wants to know if there's room for him in it. He wants to gauge whether your life is open to receiving more of him, or if it's already full with existing connections. It's about figuring out if he can become one of your emotional anchors, or if someone else already holds that space. There's also a protective instinct embedded in this curiosity. A man who is beginning to feel emotionally connected will often want to know who influences you, not because he wants to control you, but because he knows that the people closest to you have power in your life. If he hears a lot about toxic friends or unsupportive people around you, he might start thinking about how he could be a healthier presence. If he hears about strong, uplifting relationships, he'll understand the kind of emotional environment you thrive in, and that's valuable information if he's considering something serious with you. Sometimes this question also reveals the beginnings of emotional attachment through subtle insecurity. He may not say it, but if he starts showing discomfort when you mention certain people too often or with too much warmth, especially male friends or exes in your circle, that discomfort can be a signal of deeper emotional investment. Jealousy, when it's not toxic, can be a side effect of caring. It means he's afraid of losing something he hasn't fully secured yet. And while he may never say it outright, his interest in your social circle is a way to figure out who he's competing with for your time, your attention, and your emotional energy. When a man is hooked, he'll even remember the names of your friends, ask how they're doing, or bring them up in conversation as a way to show that he listens and cares about the people who matter to you. It's not just about you. It's about understanding the world that surrounds you so he can begin to find his place in it. It's about observing your patterns, your tribe, your loyalties, and ultimately where he might fit among the people you trust most. When a man asks what makes you truly happy, he's reaching far beyond surface-level attraction. This isn't about your favorite color, your the weekend activity, or what kind of movies you like. This question is his way of accessing your core. He wants to see what lights you up from within, not just what entertains you for a moment. It's an emotionally charged question that reveals where his attention is truly focused. On your internal world. A man who is hooked wants to figure out how to be a source of that happiness, or at the very least, how to support it. And this kind of inquiry doesn't come from a place of obligation or politeness. It comes from genuine emotional investment. There's a moment when casual dating turns into something more, and often it begins with questions like this. When he asks, "What really makes you happy?" or "When do you feel most alive?" he's giving you an opportunity to open a door to your passions, your desires, your joy. He's inviting you to express what matters to you most. But more than that, he's taking mental notes. He's figuring out how to show up in ways that align with what you value. He's looking for opportunities to make you smile, not just with grand gestures, but with intentionality. If you say nature makes you feel free, don't be surprised when he suggests a weekend hike. If you say connection makes you feel fulfilled, he'll lean into deeper conversations with you. Because he's not just listening, he's remembering. This kind of question can also reveal how deeply he wants to know you. Not the version of you that's curated for first impressions or dates, but the real you, the version that's often hidden behind routines and obligations. By asking about your happiness, he's signaling that he sees you as more than someone to pass time with. He sees you as someone whose emotional world matters, and whose inner joy is something he genuinely cares about. And when a man starts to care about your joy, he's already emotionally entangled. He's not trying to impress you anymore. He's trying to connect with you. Another layer of this is emotional compatibility. When he asks about what makes you happy, he's also checking whether the things that fulfill you align with his own nature. If he's a homebody and your joy comes from travel and adventure, he's taking note of that contrast. But if he's serious, he'll try to understand what about those things makes you feel alive. That way, even if he can't always match your happiness in the same form, he'll look for ways to mirror the emotion behind it. Cognitive conth. That's what emotional depth looks like, being willing to stretch beyond one's comfort zone to share in another person's joy. Men who aren't emotionally invested won't ask this. They'll focus on what's fun, what's convenient, what's temporary. But a man who is falling for you will look for the blueprint to your emotional fulfillment, because in his mind, being part of your life means finding ways to contribute to your joy. When a man asks how you see love, he's not just making conversation, he's seeking a mirror. He wants to see if your version of love aligns with his, if your expectations match what he's capable of giving, and if the relationship you're subconsciously describing includes someone like him. This is one of the most revealing questions a man can ask, and it's almost always asked from a place of emotional vulnerability. Because to ask someone how they view love is to ask what kind of heart they carry, what kind of wounds they may be healing from, and what kind of story they hope to write with someone new. This question may come in many forms. He might ask, "What does love mean to you?" Or "Do you believe in soulmates?" Or even something as subtle as, "What does a good relationship look like for you?" Each variation carries the same deeper intention. He's not asking to challenge your beliefs. He's asking to see if he could belong in that belief system. If your answer is full of depth, connection, and emotional intimacy, and he responds with curiosity and resonance, it means he's not just listening, he's reflecting. He's placing himself inside your words to see if he fits the role. Often, this kind of question is asked when a man has already started developing feelings. He's looking for signs that pursuing something deeper with you won't lead to rejection, misalignment, or disappointment. He wants reassurance, but not in a direct way. He's not going to say, "I want to love you like that." Instead, he'll listen for what you want in love and think, "Can I give her that? Or is that how I love too?" Because once a man starts imagining a future with you, he starts needing emotional clarity, and questions like this provide it. It's also a brave question to ask, because love is rarely a neutral topic. Your answer may include pain, disillusionment, hope, or guardedness, and he knows that. So when he opens the door for that conversation, it means he's ready to hold space for your truth. A man who isn't serious won't go there. He won't risk the emotional exposure. But one who's genuinely hooked wants to know your heart, even the hard parts, so he can earn his way into it with care. This moment is also an invitation for connection. When he asks this question, and you respond vulnerably, it naturally invites him to do the same. It breaks down emotional walls on both sides. Suddenly, it's not just about love in the abstract, it becomes a shared emotional exchange. Two people revealing the blueprint of how they give, receive, and protect something as fragile and essential as love. And through that dialogue, something powerful happens. He's no longer just the man asking questions. He becomes the man wondering if he could be the answer to yours. When a man asks what scares you, he's not just looking for drama, vulnerability, or interesting conversation. He's stepping into emotional territory that most people avoid. This kind of question isn't about being nosy, it's about connection. When someone asks what frightens you, they're inviting you to reveal the parts of yourself that are most protected, the places you rarely let anyone touch. And for a man to go there, it usually means he wants to be more than just a passing presence in your life. He wants to understand you, not just love your strengths, but also wrap himself around your fears with gentleness and care. This isn't the kind of question a man asks when he's just having fun or testing the waters. It's something that surfaces when emotions deepen. When a man starts imagining something real with you, he realizes that true closeness doesn't come from fun dates or casual texts. It comes from seeing the parts of you that are rarely visible to others. When he asks what scares you, whether it's about relationships, your future, failure, being alone, being misunderstood, or not feeling enough, he's asking for the keys to your emotional world. He's asking to be let in. Sometimes the question comes out of nowhere. You might be talking about something completely unrelated, and suddenly he'll ask, "What's your biggest fear?" Or is there something that really gets to you emotionally? It might catch you off guard, and that's part of why it's so powerful. Because those questions aren't rehearsed. They usually come from a moment of emotional intensity, when he's feeling close to you and wants to feel even closer. In asking, he's showing you that he's not afraid of your complexity. He's willing to sit with the uncomfortable parts of your story. And if you choose to share, he's listening not to fix you, but to understand you. There's also a protective instinct at play here. A man who is emotionally invested wants to know what threatens your peace, because once he knows, he can begin to think about how to shield you from it, or at least stand beside you when it shows up. That's what emotional intimacy looks like. He's not just attracted to you, he's beginning to care about the things that hurt you. He wants to know what keeps you up at night, not because he's obsessed with pain, but because he wants to be the person who brings you calm. The person who makes those fears feel a little smaller just by being there. When a man asks about your fears, he's also offering a silent promise that he won't judge what you say, that he won't run from your darkness, that he's not intimidated by what's real. In that moment, he's choosing depth over comfort, substance over surface, and in choosing to ask, he's revealing something about himself too. That maybe he wants to be the person you lean on when the weight of those fears feels like too much to carry alone.